Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I felt like having a more casual little video where I talk a little bit about what I'm sure everybody has, maybe not everybody, but if you are in the bookish sort of internet world and you partake in social media and things like that, you might be aware of the heightened media attention and just the heightened attempts at banning books and censorship in school libraries and in public libraries. And as a librarian, I felt it my duty to say something. I say a lot right now. I say a lot in my social media. I post a lot of quotes and things that express how I feel about it. As a librarian, it is against our, ethics in nature as a career and as an educator and as an information professional. It is against my own personal librarianship philosophy. I am against censorship. I will never prevent a person from, I will never take actions to prevent a patron or a person from obtaining the information that they require. There are a lot of ethics involved in some information that I'm sure you would think makes sense. Things that may cause harm to themselves or to others, but those are very delicate situations that we're all trained to deal with. In this case, it really is about just trying to control the information that specifically children have access to, because these individuals feel that it is quote-unquote inappropriate for children, and basically it's about not having the trust in children to know what they are and aren't prepared to read about and discuss, not wanting to have difficult conversations about politicizing reading and information and the access and the rights of patrons and of individuals to have access to information, and to access it and read it and process it in the best ways that they can and are able to. And it's really just, it really is an infringement upon rights as far as I see it, and it's something that I will always stand against. I am such a firm believer of letting, in this case a lot of the discussion is around kids, so I guess we can limit it to that, but I'm such a proponent of giving kids access to the information that they will need, information that trained professionals and most parents would want their kids to have access to. I think that, I am myself and I'm not a parent yet, but having been a child and being now a trained professional that deals with children in a library, within the capacity of a library, a public library in my case, I think I am such a proponent of allowing kids to choose and to make that decision themselves. I'm a person who, as a child, read things that would have been deemed inappropriate for my age, but I had access to them. My parents never prevented me from reading things. My teachers never prevented me from reading things. Quite the opposite. They were always there for me to come to them with questions and with thoughts, and they never prohibited me or kept things from me. I actually had a very religious neighbor who tried to convince my mom to not let me read Harry Potter, which at the time was kind of like a thing that was going around, and my mom told her, I trust my child, I trust the education that I have provided for her and the way that I have raised her, that she can read that, and if she has any questions, if she has any doubts, she will come to me. And that's the way that I was raised, and reading helped me through so many different things. We should not ever try to diminish historical atrocities or things that we think kids are not prepared to hear about and read. Kids will tell you. They will tell you if they're not ready. They will not read a book if they don't want to, if they don't like it, if they're not ready for it. Same as we did when we were kids. I know that when there was a book that I didn't have the ability to fully grasp, I stopped reading it. That is what I see every single day in my work. I will always fight for a kid's ability to choose what they want to read. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna put things that were created and marketed for older ages, but I will never censor. I'm never gonna stop my patrons from getting the information that they deem necessary. You know, there is a lot of times, and this is not really so much with banning books or censorship, but there are parents who come and they try to get their kids to not read graphic novels because they don't think that's actually reading, or they think of some types of books as trash books. And I will make a comment. I will always advocate for the child. I'm not there to advocate in the capacity in which I work under the children's and the youth department. I'm going to advocate for my child patron. I'm going to advocate for their reading. I'm going to advocate for the information that they want to have access to. When that exits the library, it's the responsibility of the parent to have those types of conversations. But I'm not going to ever take away a kid. I'm never going to take away Captain Underpants from a kid or Dogman from a kid because some parents deem it to be trash. That's just not going to happen. That is not going to be the type of librarian that I am. I am always going to advocate for the child and what they want. And I have had parents tell me, grab me 6 books and I don't want graphic novels and I want classics and I want whatever. And I'll pick a couple of classics. I'll pick a couple of more modern things, and if I see that the child wants to read graphic novels, I am going to grab some graphic novels and I'm going to provide that to them. If the parent chooses not to let them read it, that's unfortunately not something that I can intervene in. But if that is what's going to make them happy, if that's what's going to make them a reader, if that's what's going to make them continue to come to the library, that's what I'm there for, and that's what I always do. And so I wanted to talk about some of my favorite banned books, or banned and challenged books. So one that I actually just finished reading, and you'll hear about in my February reading blog and in my February wrap-up, is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This has a lot of difficult topics. It's about 2 sisters, one a child bride and one who becomes just through certain situations, she kind of ends up in the path of becoming a missionary in Africa. And it is about sisterhood, it's about society and race and the South and womanhood and how all of those intersect in their lives. And it's a beautiful story. It is incredibly sad in many ways. We have queer themes as well. There is so much to dissect and so much to read about in this novel that I can so understand why it's considered a classic. And it just has that ring of, there are certain authors, and I experience this a lot with certain Black authors. There is just this ring of truth to their words, and there is just this thing about it that I can't really put my finger on, but that it like elevates the reading experience, and their words just carry this magic. And she's one of them, and James Baldwin is one, and to me Roxane Gay is one, and Jason Reynolds and Kiese Layman. Their words just carry such power, and I'm really finally glad to have read it, and so you'll hear more about it when I upload my vlog. One is that I read last year for Black History Month, and that was The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And this is about the Eurocentric and white-centered ideas of beauty. Again, it's about race. Again, it deals with a lot of very difficult topics, pedophilia, violence within the family, racism, the effects obviously of slavery and race relations in this country. And it's about this young girl who is obsessed with the idea of having these blue eyes because that is a signifier of beauty for her, and all of the negative things that she might be able to escape if she had it. And one thing that you'll note about a lot of books that are banned is that what they really do is they open the door for a lot of discussions, difficult discussions, perhaps uncomfortable discussions, but discussions that need to be had. Because how do we learn about each other? How do we learn about ourselves? How do we expand our way of thinking if these discussions are had? If you are never faced with anything that might push against your own mental walls. Anyway, The Book Thief is actually a book that I really appreciate because it came to me in a time when I was just relearning my love of reading. It was at the beginning of my booktube experience. I remember I finished it at 2 a.m. and was just hysterically sobbing. It's a World War II historical fiction told through the perspective of death. So you can imagine the tone and how it might make you feel. Check Please is a graphic novel that has a queer components and themes and characters, and it is an absolute fucking delight. I absolutely love it. If you like sports, if you like hockey, if you like cheery, like just nothing really bad happens. It's just such a delight and just like a treat to read. Try Check Please. Educated is a memoir told by a woman whose family was like the type of people who don't want to involve themselves. They don't trust the government. They're sort of like doomsday preparers. She's not born in a hospital. She doesn't really have like a social security or anything like that, and so it's her dealing with her relationship with her family, their mental health issues that are also introduced, their beliefs and ways of thinking, and then her path towards education and becoming educated and how difficult that was for her. And the first time she stepped foot in a classroom, I think she was like 15 or 16, and so it's all about that. And I really appreciated it. I rated it very highly. I know there have been some people who feel it is an incomplete story, or the tone is too much, too close to anger and disdain to perhaps have enough clarity over the situation. But I am one of the ones that rated it very highly. We have Front Desk, which is a middle grade contemporary novel. It has immigrant Asian characters, and so it talks about the immigrant experience, and it talks about racism, and it talks about class a lot, and microaggressions and the immigrant experience, one facet of it, obviously. And I think it does so in a beautiful and delicate and enlightened way, and I do not fucking understand why it's challenged or banned. Phone Home is a graphic novel that has the content warnings that I recall about suspected pedophilia. I don't know that it's ever fully confirmed, but it is sort of discussed and kind of you get very strong hints that her father might have been involved in this. She is the author is a queer woman and talks about her relationship with her family and her relationship with herself, her relationships with other people growing up, how she was able to come to her truths over time, and I loved it. I think it's a fantastic graphic novel. The Hate You Give, I'm sure you're all familiar with, is a young adult novel that centers around an occurrence of police brutality, and it's told by a black woman. The main character is a black young woman, has a lot of topics and discussions about what black families in the United States have to deal with, and their conversations and the considerations that they need to have that other people might not need to have. And I think that's something that teenagers and kids should be able to read about, because it's their truth as well. Julian Is A Mermaid is a picture book about Julian, who wants to be a mermaid, and so it is a beautiful picture book. It's a beautiful story. It's about Julian and his grandmother, and it's about Julian living his own truth, and he wants to be a mermaid. And it's a wonderful book that is displayed. I recommend at all times. It's displayed a lot for Pride. So you do see a theme about the sort of topics and themes that are constantly being challenged and banned. It's so coincidental, right? Milk and Honey is a collection of poetry by a feminist woman of color. Oh gee, I wonder why. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo is a young adult novel told in verse, and it's about a young woman who is it's a coming of age story. She's coming into her own. She's dealing with the expectations of her family and the themes of religion and class and womanhood and family expectations are all come into play about being Afro-Latinx. It's a beautiful story. I absolutely love it. Speak is a young adult novel about a young woman who is sexually assaulted and the effect that has on her life, on her school, on her relationships with others and her family and her teachers, and how people are and are not there for her. And it's 100% a very important story that needs to be told. White Fragility is a collection of essays that is written by a white woman who works to basically teach. I think her main work is teaching classes and webinars and seminars and things and workshops in companies in the sort of corporate world of sensitivity and race relations, and she talks about why it's uncomfortable for white people to talk about race. And I have watched her TED Talk and I have read the book, and these are all ones that I have read, obviously. And I know that there are critiques of her and her approach, but I do think simultaneously there are a lot of good things that she does say. I think there's a lot of things that are taken out of context that she says, and there's a lot of sort of things that people say that prove why a lot of the things that she says are true. But so, I mean, banning it and challenging it, I think is pretty much spot on for some of the things that she discusses. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that was a surprise for me to see in the list. I was looking, I believe, at LELA. I think I looked at Library Journal and a few other sources, and this is another book that I actually recently read just in January, so you'll have heard me talk about it in my January reading blog and in my January wrap up. And it's a science fiction story about this sort of alien being and a human who escape Earth right before it's destroyed, because there's going to be this sort of intergalactic highway built, and it's about it sort of, I guess, puts into question a lot of the truths that we believe in, but it's science fiction. So I don't understand. And then the Lord of the Rings, I was like, I am surprised and I'm not surprised at this point, because to me, it is so difficult for me to understand the perspective of someone who wants to ban and challenge books. Then I am both surprised and not, kind of. So it's the Lord of the Rings. Who doesn't know the story of Lord of the Rings? One of the most, one of the best fantasy stories ever told. One of the greatest, like, adventure and journey stories ever told. I read these actually the last, I think, 2 years I read the series. I guess the magic is why this would be challenged. Same with like Harry Potter, I guess, you know, and the Hunger Games. Those are also Galileo. Stop it. Those are also two books that are challenged a lot. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on too long. I think I've sort of made my point and my perspective known. Read all the books that you want. Read as many books as you want, and you know, shame on you if you try to censor and to prohibit people and others from reading. If you do not want your personal child to read a book, then that is your problem, your issue. Unfortunate for your child, but you should not try to stop other children. They are not your children. So I have a couple of screenshots and quotes and things that I avidly agree with, that I thought I would share. So one of the books also that is being challenged a lot and banned is Mouse, which is a graphic novel. It's told, the characters are mice, and it's told through the perspective of the Jews during the Holocaust. And so a user named Gwency Katz talks about how a lot of teachers might replace something like this. I have not personally read Mouse, so this is why it was not on my list, but might replace this with a book such as The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which I have not read, but I've seen the movie of. And they say that The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is tailor-made for classroom use. It's taught at countless schools, and it's squeaky clean of any of the parent objectionable material you might find in Mouse, Night, or any of the first-person accounts of the Holocaust. It's also a terrible way to teach the Holocaust. I'm not going to exhaustively enumerate the book's flaws. Others have done so, but I'll summarize the points that are common to this phenomenon in various contexts. First, obviously, the context shift. Mouse, Night, etc. are narrated by actual Jews who were in concentration camps. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is narrated by a German boy. The Jewish perspective is completely eliminated. Second, the emphasis on historical innocence. Bruno isn't anti-Semitic. He has no idea that anything bad is happening. Bruno is, I believe, the main character in Boy in the Striped Pajamas. He happily befriends a Jewish boy with absolutely no prejudice. Thus, we are reassured that you too, gentle reader, are innocent. You too would have had a childlike lack of prejudice, and you too would be such a sweet summer child that you would have no idea the place next door is a death camp. In Mouse, by contrast, the children are not innocent. They are perpetrators of injustice, just like adults. Bad things can happen, but only abstractly when we teach in such a way. Someone's dad disappears, he's just gone. It's about the sort of sanitation of history, right? So a few other ones that I liked. Obviously, you've probably heard some of these. Any Book Worth Banning is a Book Worth Reading by Isaac Asimov. Yes, books are dangerous. They should be dangerous. They contain ideas by Pete Helpman. A Truly Great Library contains something in it to offend everyone by Judy Blume. There Are Worse Crimes Than Burning Books. One of them is not reading them by Ray Bradbury. I will add to that, or trying to prevent others from reading them. Think for yourselves and let others enjoy the privilege to do so too, by Voltaire. Clint Smith, who's an author, says, when I was a high school English teacher, I was constantly blown away by how willing and how eager my students were to grapple with the difficult topics and questions that arose from books we read. Young people are capable of far more than many adults often give them credit for. Banning books that expose students to the atrocities and inequities of our world does not protect them. If anything, it leaves them less equipped to understand why our society looks the way that it does today. Teaching them these histories honestly helps them make sense of who we are. Whether it is slavery, the Holocaust, or genocides of indigenous people across the world, literature can help us cultivate public memory so that it doesn't happen again. We should be expanding curriculum to include more of these books and certainly not pulling them out. There are people experiencing an existential threat to their sense of who they believe themselves to be because more expansive stories about this country and the world are being told. They're trying to keep the ideas from being taught, but I know enough teachers to know it won't work. And I hope you also know enough librarians to know that won't work also. Yeah, as always, thank you for watching and for listening. Let me know what some of your favorite banned books are. Read banned books, talk about banned books. And be just as upset as we are that this is even a conversation that we need to have.